Hi class, my name is Alexis Carabinas, and today I'm going to be presenting to you dyslexia, and I'll get into more of the specific article that I used today, but as future educators, we need to understand that everyone learns differently, and especially students learn differently based on how they interpret learning or how they project learning onto others. So first, we should probably talk about the definition of dyslexia, and the definition is basically it is a learning disorder on how they read or interpret sounds when it comes to words. And as you can see from this image that I have over to the right, no, to the left, excuse me, there's writing, listening, interpreting, spatial temporal memory difficulties, motor control, and even on those specific kinds of areas of dyslexia, they each go into their own little bubble. So some people only have issues with dates, some people only have difficulties reading or listening. It all depends. So do some of you, for instance, have an issue when you read a test? You have to read the answers first or the question first, or would you understand the question better if a teacher were to read it out loud to you? That can almost be on a very wide range of dyslexia. It's not necessarily that you have the worst of the worst when it comes to dyslexia, but do you or have you known someone that prepares or learns better if someone helps them out? So it also talks about how 1 in 5 people display signs of having dyslexia. That's very, very high numbers when you really think about it. And some people don't even know if they have dyslexia throughout their entire lives. Have you ever met parents or grandparents where they can never read a certain way because they feel like the words on the page are moving, or they get numbers mixed up or words mixed up? One word looks the same to them than another word. So there is a huge scale on dyslexia. So we go into deeper examples of dyslexia. There are a few types. There's acquired, developmental, surface, phonological, and visual or scotopic sensitivity. Now, acquired and deep dyslexia is something that involves injury, stroke, or trauma. So if you get hit by a car or if you get a brain injury in sports, you can get a kind of dyslexia where your learning that you had accomplished throughout your entire lifetime can be taken away in a quick instant. Developmental can involve genetics, so if your father, mother, or grandparents or great-grandparents had some kind of dyslexia or were not diagnosed until later in their age and then you realize you have those same characteristics, that is what developmental dyslexia is. The next type of dyslexia is surface, and it's unable to recognize a word or a whole word or retrieve pronunciation from memory. So, for instance, a spelling bee, a lot of participants would ask to use that word in a sentence or to use as an example. Or on a test, they would get words confused. So it's trying to retrieve what they heard or saw and repeat that motion. Phonological dyslexia is where moves do not move on the page, but they have a difficulty in retaining words or text in their brain, transforming it into different words. So it's kind of like nouns, pronouns, adverbs, switching it back and forth, where 1 minute you will say there, like over there, but then you have to talk about the person next to you saying there, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing. They have difficulties with those kinds of words. And the last type of dyslexia is visual or scotopic sensitivity, where words do move on the page. So you know how if you're reading a page in a book or reading a test and it almost feels like you're so exhausted that you feel like you have to read the same sentence over and over. You feel like you've read it, but you have to keep reading it or else it won't retain. That can be a type of scale of dyslexia you may have. So the specific article I talked about is the Kansas Association of School Boards. And this article is discussing recommendations to help dyslexia in the current school system. And the board addressed that since the discovery of this condition, they have made strides to meet their affected students. Which, yes, there are all around Kansas and the Midwest region, we have made little steps that have made dramatic improvements, but so far we just really want to stick it to them and give an even further stride into helping our students with these kinds of conditions. So the recommendations are aimed towards the to improve teacher programs, screening and evaluation process, and students with dyslexia or dyslexia-like characteristics, evidence-based reading programs. So we don't want to try a brand new reading system that has no help for dyslexia-type students. We want evidence-based. So we want to have statistics on these programs. We want to have examples of these programs, trial missions into each school or district just to test it out before we fully implement it into our program. Screening and evaluating process, there could be students who are not taking tests well, or in class they pay attention like no other, but as soon as they get work in front of them, they shut down. So sometimes it's really important for teachers to watch how their students learn, because we ourselves are learning as well. How do I get the same information that this person is getting over to this person who has a difficulty? And the other recommendation was to improve pre-service teacher programs. So it is important for teachers to get that opportunity to better themselves in the teaching environment. So board member Jim McNee stresses that what we are talking about is a change in our culture of our school districts and our preparation programs. So it's a very big change, and some people aren't really open to change, which shouldn't be the mindset of an educator. Change is honestly a condition, just like technology or any type of aspect of schools, and it's very prominent that we take these strides to improve everyone's experience in education, not just the ones that score high. So additional recommendations made from this article were outside work required from teachers or educators. And these outside work could be training programs online that cost $10 to do to be certified. As a future educator, I'm not there yet, but I really want to get those kind of certificates under my belt for when I do apply for my position. So could anyone else tell me what other kinds of certifications a teacher or a student should get before they enter the work program? Well, you could get sign language certification. You don't have to be prominent in that language, but if you have that kind of background, that could work. But for dyslexia specifically, if you are trained in the knowledge of this area, you are more likely to be hired in this type of field. Or if, for example, if you're teaching art and you have a student who is colorblind, or if you have a student in math who understands what you're talking about on the board, but as soon as he gets to the homework, he fails completely. Getting that outside training is very important. Additional funds, always adding new aspects to the curriculum, is going to cost some money to bring in coordinators for the Kansas State Department of Education. Every little thing is going to cost money. That is the way of the world. That is the way of the economy. No one's going to get anything for free unless they show evidence of needing that, and sometimes that's not even enough. And they also talked about a creation of a dyslexia handbook. What are the first signs to look for a dyslexia student? What are the common treatments? Is it outside treatment? Sometimes students need extra tutoring outside of school, outside of our training, to really push themselves into getting where they need to be. I thought this was a nice quote that one of the board members said, is we have to catch kids before they fail. It's really important that teachers notice how their students are doing in the classroom instead of just focusing on who's not doing well and who is doing well. Alright, here's the main predicament as to what everyone is talking about. So students who suffer from dyslexia really need to be taught in a specific way, and they're required specialized reading instruction. So to educate a student who is diagnosed with dyslexia, the average cost is $12,500. Yikes, that is a lot, I know. Can you think of any other program that costs that much? How about tuition to a community college? to get a whole 1 year at a community college with all these classes. Instead, this person needs one thing treated with that much money. And this is according to the National Center of Education Statistics. So there were other programs that I researched, and there's an Orton-Gillingham program. This is a very expensive program, but it is a very useful and proven technique for tutoring outside of school. The Orton-Gillingham trained tutor can charge between $80 to $100 an hour. That is amazing for those involved in that career and atrocious for people who are paying for it. It takes up to 60 to 100 hours to go up one grade level. So imagine if you're going from 3rd grade and you need help every year, you can probably add those numbers, and it's not great. The average cost for one grade level would be $10,000. So yes, is it less than $12,500 for a whole school district or a school function to teach, or would you yourself pay $10,000 for an outside tutor? Don't really want to do that. Another program that I found was Pride Reading Program, and this is actually way easier, way payment friendly for the wallet, and this is an easy to follow online teaching guide. You can teach it to yourself. So I would recommend this program to parents who have a dyslexia student and they want to help them at home. So say that this vote does not pass in 1 month. The vote to pass these recommendations onto the School Board of Education is in 1 month. And say people don't want that vote and we don't get these programs into the school district. Parents should be able or willing to make the step into doing whatever they can for their child. And this Pride program is free and it's easy. It's online and you can do it at home. You can do it at your convenience. You can stop, pause, do whatever you need to. But for parents who are not necessarily confident in their teaching abilities, even after going through the program, you can hire your local tutor and have them take this Pride Reading Program for $10 to $12 an hour, which is a whole lot money friendly compared to the $80 to $100. So I would definitely recommend it. I would also recommend that program to teachers or to other students. For college students or high school students who are a part of tutoring programs, sometimes learning from someone their own age can be very, very beneficial. So I would also recommend them. It's a free program. So yeah. Okay, so the final question I want to ask is, after all of this entire presentation, would you vote yes or no to implement these recommendations to add more fundings to a dyslexia type program, creating a handbook, initiating a coordinator, making sure that the teachers work outside of the class? Would you vote yes or no? If you were someone who was diagnosed with this condition and you were not getting the help that you so rightly deserve, how do you feel? Or do you feel that it's a little tedious and students should be able to take their education into their own hands? I want you guys to know. Give me a paragraph answer and it would be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Also, support your answer. Bye.